It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Hi, Dave Despain with MavTV, which is your television destination if you're looking for motorsports. Radio, you found it. You're listening to The Front Stretch.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Hey, speaking of that, did you go, have you been on the Facebook, have you seen the video of the carts, these, some of these nationwide, the go-karting facilities around the country that they were showing videos of people that just drove a little bit too hard. They thought they could rub into the corner and go, and they'd end up slamming into the wall and destroying the cart. That's the reason why Joe's Karting is a little bit hard on you when it comes to rubbing and racing.
It ain't Darlington.
It's really easy to lose track of how fast these carts are going, and you'll learn that if you're the only one on the field, on the track, or if you're just on your own where you're out on the track. Those corners will sneak up on you, and you have a tough time braking and getting into the corner. If you're trying to race somebody into the corner and you misjudge it, which you're going to do it the first 20, 30 times you do it, you could end up in the other wall. And by the way, you could end up pretty hurt. So be safe when you're racing at Joe's Karting while you're having some fun. Get over to Joe's Karting, indoor karting facility. That's really going to start to take effect as we have started to enter into the winter or the fall months.
And the road is fixed. No more restrictions.
Oh my God, it's finally fixed. That was a ridiculous project that it just kept growing and growing and growing, and that was a long process.
And
but the road is
so smooth.
The road is completely back open, so no more construction in front of Joe's Karting. 23rd Avenue, Council Bluffs. As always, you can find great information, how-to videos, and all the great stuff on their Facebook page and at joeskarting.com. We got a big show lined up for you today. Turn number 1, we are going to recap Saturday night / Sunday afternoon's Bristol race, and boy, what a race it was. We'll recap all of that. Turn number 2, we are finally going to play our interview with Dave Despain. We had an amazing interview with Dave. Great one-on-one conversation.
What a guy.
We found a gold mine of information in that guy.
Wealth of knowledge.
And what a surprise. He's been a part of motorsports for so long, and he's so well-spoken. So, no surprise there that we got a great interview out of Dave.
And a nice guy to boot.
Yeah, we're going to play that in turn number 2. Turn number 3, Stan Cisar will join in the studio to talk about the IMCA RaceSaver Nationals coming up this weekend at Eagle Raceway. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Get your tickets in advance. $30 in advance. You're going to save yourself $7 on 3-day tickets because Friday is $10, Saturday's $12, Sunday's $15. You put it all together, you get $37 if you buy them all individually. Save yourself $7 and get them in advance. But we'll talk to Stan about what's coming up for that 3-day of racing. It's going to be a lot of racing at Eagle Raceway.
Yeah, it's too bad that just doesn't work on my schedule because I was looking forward to it until about the end of June, and I was like, uh-oh.
You got to go on vacation. Yeah.
Well, I'm missing the Husker season opener too. And,
True.
Yeah.
Well, that's not that big of a deal.
I kind of blew it on the planning stages on this one.
And then in turn number 4, we will preview the race to come today at Michigan. And some big news coming out as the week of racing has unfolded. Let's talk about that Bristol race. Started out on Saturday night, but Mother Nature intervened and said, nope, you guys are going to be racing on Sunday afternoon. I'm actually kind of surprised they got it in on Sunday afternoon.
Well, when Mother Nature intervened finally, and when they finally called it, she really intervened. I mean, it was pouring.
It was a deluge. And then, so I think they got about 38 laps in, which we talked about live on the show last Sunday morning, and then 10 laps under caution, and then finally just had to call it, and then they finally postponed it till noon the next day, noon Central, and I think it was even delayed a little bit there because there was some rain at about 11.
Yeah, it was about 2:30, I think, when they finally got things rolling. But once they got it rolling, it went pretty good, as long as you weren't a Kyle Busch fan.
Right. Poor you. I'm sorry.
He led half the race, and then all of a sudden he's gone.
256 laps. I never did catch what broke in that car, but it sounded like multiple issues in that car.
Well, they were talking about he thought something broke in the rear end, and like maybe shock mounts or sway bar or the Panhard bar mount. He wasn't really sure, but he went into that one corner and he went around, and it was a real funny spin out because he didn't just loop it. It was back and forth, and when he finally got stopped for whatever reason,
Justin Allgaier.
No, it wasn't Allgaier.
It was
46.
Allgaier's. Yeah, it was Allgaier substituting for Michael Annett.
Oh, okay. He was in the car for Annett. Okay,
yeah.
I was going to say it was Michael Annett's car, but yeah, right. I mean, out of nowhere he hit him, and that was just one of them unforgivable things. His spotter wasn't getting a message to him or something.
Yeah, that was a rough one, and he let him have it in the post incident interviews. He let the guy have it, and the classic Kyle Busch. He didn't explode on the radio that I heard and didn't scream and throw a big fit. He took his frustration out on the guy who destroyed his car. They probably could have gone to the pits, made the repairs, maybe even back into the garage and made the repairs.
They might have gone a few laps down, but he probably would have saved himself 8 or 10 positions because there were guys a lot of laps down. They could have worked on the car quite a while and still finished 6 or 7 spots higher than they did. But
Kyle ends up finishing 39th. Kurt Busch also involved in a big accident. He finishes 38th. Matt Kenseth 37th. Ryan Blaney 35th. Brad Keselowski 33rd. I'm going to have to take multiple breaths, by the way, to talk about these 30th place top finishers.
Oh, yeah, there were a lot of big cars.
Brad Keselowski 33rd. Clint Bowyer 31st. Tony Stewart 30th. I don't think he was involved in any accidents. He just had a terrible car.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
He was 13, 14 laps down. So
yeah, but he just kept getting lapped. They did take it behind the wall to work on it fairly early in the race for something. I don't remember what it was. I want to say a brake issue, I think.
Yeah, Kyle Larson 24th. Martin Truex Jr. 23rd. Let's see, Chase Elliott 15th. He continues to free fall down the standings and really put his chase hopes in jeopardy.
Yeah, but he's pretty much got a lock on the Rookie of the Year deal since they don't give it to a guy that wins a race, which is, in my opinion, that might be something they might want to look at. If a rookie wins a race, he ought to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and it's to your point, the thing that you don't like about the chase format is that the old format for the point standings was all about consistency. Consistently, Chase has been the better finisher, but Chris has a win. Chris Buescher has a win. But we could be talking about 2 rookies making it into the chase for the first time in the format history, which I believe they're taking that all the way back to, 2004 when there was the first chase system.
I was going to say 2003 or 4 was when the chase was implemented, and I think it'll be the first rookie if either one of these make it. I mean, Buescher's almost in there, almost a shoe-in. I mean, he's in there right now.
Yeah, he's right at 30th place right now. So
and he's got a little bit of pad between him and 31st. He's just got to keep 30th. And, he ended up with a great finish the other day. If anybody had the cojones to take him, solid top 10 run.
Absolutely. So he is 328 points. He is 13 points in front of David Reagan, who's in 31st. So, he's just got to keep his – but honestly, for that team – consistent finishes have been difficult to come by. That's the reason why they're in this predicament.
Well, yeah, but some of these races, like he's been pretty decent at short tracks. I didn't see his finish earlier at Richmond, but he's got Richmond coming up, and it's another short track, so he might do real well there. And David Reagan hasn't really done much anywhere,
Right, yeah. So Kevin Harvick ends up getting the win. Good finish for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I think he had a very, very good car. It's just Kevin had a little bit better of a car, and Kevin's a little bit more experienced, so he was able to pull away. I think early on, if those two, if Ricky would have restarted that final restart a little bit closer to Kevin, I think he started 6th. If he'd have started 4th, maybe 3rd, or even 2nd, I think he could have got Kevin, because Kevin seemed to have a little bit better of a long run car as to where Ricky had a better short run car, and I think Ricky could have got around him. Whether he could have held him would have been a different story.
Yeah, I wonder really what happened to Harvick in qualifying, because he was lost. Where did he start? Like 24th or something?
Yeah, 24th.
And but the one truck race I worked in, Bristol, 2003, something like that, when Harvick had his truck team, he led. I think it was a 200-lap race, and he led 199 laps. He blew a right front tire after he took the white flag, and Travis Kvapil was running second and ended up winning. That was Travis's only win, and he won the championship that year. So.
By the way, we'll get to a side note of that. We'll get back to the standings here in just a minute. Have you noticed how many articles have been coming out about Travis Kvapil and all these great interviews about his time in the cars and all that? Where was our credit for? We did that interview back in, we did it the first time in May at Kansas, and then the audio got ruined. So then we did it at Iowa Speedway. We played that. If you want to listen to a good interview, go back and listen to that Travis Kvapil interview. You'll be amazed at how good and how, the quality of stuff that comes out. You want to talk about Dave Despain coming up next in turn number 2 being a great interview. Travis is right up there along with David Starr.
Yeah, David Starr's great. I mean, Brendan is good to talk to. Brendan's entertaining.
Yeah.
Brendan's a people pleaser. The other 2 guys are information bound. I wish we would have been able to somehow salvage that first interview with David, because we got into more stuff that time with his kids and, what he's looking at there and stuff now than we did the second time. It kind of took a little bit different direction, but still a great interview.
Denny Hamlin ends up finishing third, Austin Dillon fourth, Chris Buescher fifth, Carl Edwards, Jimmy Johnson, Jamie McMurray, AJ Allmendinger, Joey Logano finishes your top 10 for Bristol.
Best run for JJ in a while.
A lot of people that AJ or JJ?
JJ. Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, they've struggled mightily lately. But a lot of cars you don't expect to see up in the top 10 because of the wrecks early took out a lot of these front-running contenders that are consistently up there. And that was also for the pickups contest. Boy, there was first of all, nobody took Kevin Harvick.
Not starting 24th. Yeah.
You're not going to take him at Bristol at a short track finish starting that far back.
Yeah, starting in the top 5, he would have got picked by somebody.
Absolutely, but nobody picked him. And a lot of people ended up taking Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, and they had terrible days, so we saw a big shakeup in the standings.
Yeah, I mean, the Kyle Busch deal was, I took him. It was a fluke.
Yeah.
He was the best car, until whatever broke.
Yeah.
But that's why you run the race,
And that's how Bristol rolled out. All right, still to come, Dave Despain turn 2, Stan Cisar turn 3. We will preview Michigan in turn number 4. Plus, we'll talk about the Crewman for a Day contest presented by Kansas Speedway and Richard Childress Racing. We'll be back here in turn number 2 with Dave Despain. Make sure you stick around. You're not going to want to miss it here on the front stretch.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
And we're back with Kansas Speedway, who is still sorry.
That's right. I'm, really sorry to the coworkers of my fans who have to listen to all that loud talking on Monday. And sorry my drink prices won't turn your weekend into a loan application. And sorry the chase for the championship is more exciting than your last date.
The chase is on as the Sprint Cup Series Championship rolls in Sunday, October 16th for the Hollywood Casino 400 at Kansas Speedway. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com.
You're welcome.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 2, brought to you by Kansas Speedway, the Hollywood Casino 400, Sunday, October 16th. Tickets are available now. Call 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com. Also, if you want to be a part of the Crewman for a Day contest, make sure you email us, frontstretch590@gmail.com. The simplest parts of it all. It's going to be a 5-week fantasy league that starts at Darlington here. September 4th is when that starts. So next weekend is when it starts.
Labor Day weekend.
It goes till Dover on October 2nd. You pick your driver you think is going to do good each weekend, and then whoever has the most points is going to be the Crewman for a Day. And you're basically going to be able to follow Richard Childress Racing, number 62 team of Brendan Gone around on that Saturday at Kansas Speedway and get some great information about what all goes into setting these cars up.
It's going to be a real eye-opener. I mean, I've seen it a million times, and Dan's seen it now for several years, but it is a real eye-opener watching these guys do what they do on a race day. When they go through their qualifying thing, you'll get to meet Brendan. You'll get to meet Brendan's crew chief, Shane Wilson. You'll get to hang out with the crew guys a little bit. We're still working on a few of the final details. You'll be able to get up on the pit box and at least get some pictures and stuff up there. We're hoping they got room for you up there during the race and during qualifying so you can see the computer screens and watch where they watch their lap times and see how they track their fuel mileage and all the things that go into a race. It's really interesting. And we're also hoping that you get a radio to listen in and listen to the conversation. Now, it is rated XX.
Yeah.
Not XXX, but XX.
It gets graphic sometimes, especially if Brendan's upset.
Well, especially if there's a crash of any kind, which is obviously out of everybody's control on our end. So, I mean, if they go out and crash on the third lap, it really kind of stinks, and it's too bad.
Yep.
But you'll still have access to sit down on pit road and watch the rest of the race. Maybe if you've got another driver, maybe if Kyle Busch is in the race, or Matt Kenthis ran there in May. I know he ran the Xfinity race. Might be Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano. If you like those guys, you can go down maybe and hang out in their pit stall a little bit and look around.
Yep.
But it's plenty of access, and it is really neat.
And it's absolutely free. Frontstretch590@gmail.com to get that information. All right, a couple of weeks ago, we were over at the Knoxville Nationals, and we got to sit down with Dave Despain and kind of talk to him a little bit about a lot of different subjects. And Dirk, you started off by asking him about what is the biggest thing that he sees in dirt racing right now?
Well, it seems pretty good. The World of Outlaws just continue to be a success story. I don't know. I draw a bit of a parallel, I think, to the dirt track motorcycle world where I came from. There's always been this fantasy that someone would fire some magic bullet and dirt track motorcycle racing would suddenly become as big as NASCAR, which is obviously not going to happen. It's very much an enthusiast-driven sport, and passion for it is the thing that makes it all work, whether it's passion on the part of the riders or the owners, etc. It's not a great way to get rich. And there are a lot of parallels, I think, in the sprint car world, less so in the World of Outlaws, where the money's better, obviously, but especially in USAC, where I think about midget racing, where those guys are racing, I remember making the crack years ago, you're racing a $50,000 motor for $5,000 to win. The math isn't very good. And it's that same issue. It's racing has become so entertainment driven, and I think it gives up a little bit of its authenticity in that process. And so I have great respect for the guys who do it, the people who do it because they love it and not because they're going to get rich at it.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed in the years that I've gone to racing and being locally out of Omaha with I-80 Speedway and such, and Eagle Raceway right down the street, that the sprint car crowd is its own crowd. There's not a big crossover between like sprint car people and like late model stock cars or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. Again, I'm not there every week, but I think that's a fair assessment. And they always turn out, and that's the reason that the Outlaws are able to run the crazy schedule that they do and race so many times, often on weeknights all across the country. Their fans are going to be there, and they're going to buy a T-shirt, and they're going to keep that economic engine driving at a level that makes it possible for the caliber and quality of field that you see every week to show up. So, people argue and debate about car count in every kind of racing. Yeah, the number is important, but the quality is the real key. If you've only got 20 cars, but they're Donnie shots and guys capable of challenging Donnie shots, you're going to have a great show. And typically they have more than that. So I think it's healthy. I think it's here for the long haul. I don't think it'll ever be NASCAR, but I think it's a good thing.
How big of an impact economically do you think this 2-week period is to the city of Knoxville? Obviously multi-million-dollar. It probably drives the city for the whole year.
My personal anecdote there is that I got on, because I rode in on my motorcycle, so I wasn't quite sure where I was going to end up staying, but I was not going to stay in Des Moines, which was going the wrong way, which is where the MavTV crew stayed, because obviously all the hotels are booked for miles. So I jump on Expedia and just plugged in Knoxville to see how far away I could find a room, and found a room at the Red Carpet Inn. But the guy just went nuts when I checked in, because it was supposed to be a 6-night minimum at $150 a night. So, to the extent that my experience, I was very lucky. I got a 2-night room. He wasn't happy about it. But the point of that is not so much where I stayed, but if you just take that number and multiply it by all the businesses in town. And I don't, $150 is a lot for that room for that night, but it's walking distance from the racetrack, and you got a place to park, and those are all worth money. I don't see the gouging here maybe that I see at some other events that I won't name. So all in all, the impact is huge. That little hotel between this week and the Nationals for the late models in a month, never mind what they do with the weekly shows, that'll keep that joint open for a year.
I think have you ever been to the College World Series in Omaha?
No.
I think this event is about as close as it we can draw comparisons to when it was back at Rosenblatt Stadium, because it was much of centered around 13th Street in Omaha and that Rosenblatt Stadium, and there was vendors and there was people cooking food and there was parking in yards, and like you said, it wasn't price gouging. It's what, $8, $10, $12 to park at the College World Series, and they've gotten rid of a lot of that kind of small town feel that was there. But man, it's great to see it back here. There's so many merch tents and so many different types of ways to raise your cholesterol and your blood pressure, and thank God, thank God there's plenty of beer around. But it just feels like it's such a big little event.
Bingo. Yes, it has gained this incredible scope, and the numbers of people and the facility itself. I mean, show me another half-mile fairgrounds racetrack in the world like this. And yet they have absolutely adamantly refused to give up that small town feel. And, to me, that's perfect. That's the perfect combination. It's very difficult to do. When you get big, the natural tendency is to act big. And here in Knoxville, they got big, but they've stayed very much small town, hometown friendly. I tell people all the time when they find out I'm from Iowa, I tell them it's a great place to be from. Not sure I'd want to live here now because I like to travel too much, and it's just that I've kind of gone from being a small town guy to a middle of nowhere guy. That's where I want to live, and all the middle of nowhere spots in Iowa are taken up with corn and beans. But it's good, and Knoxville definitely has maintained the appeal of that whole lifestyle.
Back to the driving forces in this sport, how big is it that Tony Stewart has bought the All-Star circuit?
Oh, I think it's huge. It's another example of Tony giving back. And again, not following it on a weekly basis. I'm not sure what impact that's had, car count-wise. Again, that's always a big issue and everything else. But I know they get more ink, that more people pay attention to it because Tony owns it and Tony talks about it, and Tony does everything he can to pump it up, and that has impact. That he's big news. So when Tony speaks, people listen. And I think it's more than just Tony. Tony's not dumb. Tony will not just throw money at something unless he sees value there. Look at Eldora. He's taken the foundation that Earl built and turned it into an incredible facility. But I'll bet he's making money. I'll bet the bottom line's okay. And I think the same will probably be true with the All-Stars. And there again, you create a really strong regional series that becomes the feeder system for Outlaws or wherever. And that's what makes racing work.
Tony seems to be probably one of the best ambassadors for dirt track racing that the sport has seen in a very long time. I've only been in the sport for a couple of years, so my window of what I've seen the sport do is incredibly limited compared to the two guys I'm sitting next to. But it kind of feels like dirt track racing is, in the next 10 years, going to take another step forward, maybe a little bit closer to NASCAR, because Tony paved the way to bridge the gap between the two racing series, and the guys like Kyle Larson and Rico Abreu are going to continue it. Now they're going to be able to continue it twofold.
Yeah, I think there's truth in that. Well, the link from open-wheel dirt racing and NASCAR racing, you can trace it back at least as far as Kenny Schrader when he was winning Silver Crown championships in USAC, and took a brief, the logical route back then was to Indy. And he went to Indy once and hit the wall once and decided he needed to be a stock car racer. And that kind of created the pathway that Jeff Gordon followed, Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman, the list goes on. So that link has been there. But the thing that impresses me, and not just Tony, the thing that impresses me about Casey Kane and Kyle Larson, the willingness to put some of that money back. Those guys get really big paychecks, and instead of just buying a bigger jet, if you go buy a sprint car team, that helps the sport, that helps the economy, that helps the whole sport move up, and as you described. So certainly Tony plays probably the most multi-dimensional part in that, with his ownership of teams and racetrack and all the other things, sanctioning body, all the other things that he does. But they're all given back, and I like that, and I would like to see more guys doing that.
Yeah, that's one of the best things I've always admired about Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. They haven't gone down to the dirt track level to give back, but they've started their truck teams and whatnot. Them putting money back in the sport.
Got to water the roots.
There you go. I mean, it's got to keep rotating. It's got to come back somewhere. We always ask everybody one simple question. If you were like the god of racing and you could change something in racing, and it could be at the promotional level, it could be at the track level, wherever, what would that one thing be?
Well, I'd give every team and driver their personal ATM with somebody else to pay the balance off. And you just when you need something, just go shove the card in the slot and the money shows up. Realistically, that's really a tough one. But I think my wish for racing would be that it never lose its authenticity. I've always admired the fact that racing, it's real easy to keep score. You look at the results, and that's what you did. You may have a story, you may have an excuse, you may have a promise for next time, you may have this, that, and the other thing. But this night, this is what you did. This is what you got paid for. Take it and try to do better. Take it and try to maintain that momentum. Try to go out and win the Knoxville Nationals 10 times in 11 years instead of 9 times in 10 years, as Donnie Schatz has done. Whatever. I like the fact that it's real, and I get troubled a little bit without naming names when it becomes more showbiz than competition. So I would encourage those who run the sport and make the decisions in the sport to never lose sight of the need to keep it authentic and maintain that connection with the fan. Because when the fan stops coming, that's when we all go home.
Correct. And I mean, that's one thing. We've been on the Rico Abreu train for a year and a half now, 2 years. We've had him on the show a couple times, and he gave us probably the best answer. He said, I don't care where you go in the country, any kid 12 and under should get into the race for free. And he's backing his words because he's out here at his trailer giving kids pictures and hats and taking pictures with the kids. Everything's all about kids at his trailer, and that's just fantastic.
Well, it is, and it's critically important, and it's probably the great unsolved question for most people in racing at every different level. How do we get younger people involved in the sport? I don't think there's a racing series out there. Well, maybe when you get into drifting and some of those kinds of more exotic and youth-oriented, action-oriented extreme sports, maybe it's not so much a problem. But any of the old line racing series, we have a problem with gentrification. Our crowds are growing older, and so finding those kids and getting them interested and bringing them along is very critical. And I used to be very concerned about that. I worked for a long time in the sanctioning body, motorcycle race sanctioning body, and we were just really concerned in the 70s because kids who grew up with wrenches in their hands were now growing up with a mouse, and they spent all their time playing with computers and not with tools, and seemed to have lost their interest in internal combustion. And our fear was that, they're not going to discover motorcycling if, like their dad did. And that's a potential consequence for the people who build them and the people who race them and everybody else involved. And it really didn't happen. Somehow those kids have found their way into the sport. Not long after that, Kawasaki's little street-legal dirt bike was their biggest selling model. So I tend to have a perhaps blindly optimistic view of that. I just think the kids will come. That said, I think all of us in the sport need to figure out every way we can to attract them and make it easier for them to come.
We've talked about the going back in strengthening the roots of the sport, and a lot of the conversation today in the NASCAR world is how strong the Joe Gibbs Racing and the Toyota industry is. And now here at the Knoxville Nationals, we're starting to see Toyota popping up here and there and increasing their involvement in the dirt track world. Do you worry at all of racing and American racing losing its authenticity if some of the foreign manufacturers start bringing their money into the sport?
No, I don't think so. I think they get an education pretty quick. I think Toyota, when they came into NASCAR, probably had a little bit of an idea that, how tough can this be? We build highly sophisticated products and sell them all over the world. And now we're going to come to predominantly the American Southeast, and we're going to race pushrod V8s with carburetors. We'll figure this out in pretty short order. And it took them a while. It took them a long while. And I think that unless you're just so, whatever the word is, so obsessed with the notion of foreign that you can't tolerate the idea of it's really hard to maintain that whole view of the world when cars are now world cars and when so many American cars are built in Mexico. Make of that what you will. You can have we're having a whole presidential debate about that, aren't we? But the bottom line is, I think Toyota, if Toyota's your example, I think Toyota has contributed tremendously to racing. And I think for the most part, they've done it on the up and up. Michael Waltrip's team being the exception on a couple of occasions. But that's Michael. That's not Toyota, or Michael's team. That's not Toyota. I think they've been good for the sport. And I think we all need to, recognize modern-day realities and allow those other brands, whatever they may be, to come in and help contribute to the growth for the future.
Well, I know one thing. I was involved as an official, still with NASCAR, when Toyota did come in 2004. And one thing I don't think Toyota expected is every time they found that gray area in the rule book and whooped it, NASCAR said, new rule. Can't do this. I mean, the rev limiters on the motors came in, the transmission, the one transmission for the weekend, 2 gear ratios at a track, all that came in thanks to Toyota.
Yeah, and you can argue about the rule-making process in NASCAR all you want, but they're pretty good at spreading the wealth. And Toyota paid their dues, and when they'd paid their dues, they got their opportunity to win. And now, as you say, they're they're not totally dominant, but they're pretty doggone good week in, week out.
At the beginning of this, we talked about the cost of the sport, and you talked about your wish, if you were the god of racing, would be to give all the teams an ATM card, an unlimited ATM card. If Toyota does come in and start building sprint car engines, and they start dominating, is that going to up the dollar level of the sport? Because now teams are going to have to, and if they want to start winning on a consistent basis for the World of Outlaws, for the Knoxville Nationals, are they going to have to buy the $10,000 extra Toyota engine?
Well, if it's faster and if it's $10,000 more, then the answer to the question is yes.
Yeah.
Because you got to have the fastest thing. That's how the sport works. Then again, that said, and again, I may give away some of my lack of understanding of sprint car racing, but I would bet that a minority of tracks you need all the horsepower you make. The key is getting that power to the ground. So old-fashioned understanding of how to tweak the car and the basics of geometry and stagger and all the rest of that, how to make the driver comfortable, how to make it hook up on a given night, you can do it without brute horsepower. Now, is the driver going to want more horsepower every night, no matter where they are, including the indoor race on a 24th mile track so slick that the driver always wants more horsepower. But again, that's was ever thus. It's been that way since day one, and we've survived this long. So I think sprint car racing and racing in general will survive Toyota, if that's the example that we're using, just like they've survived all the other challenges that have come along over time. And the other part of that is, if they do it right and they make the thing widely available, they keep the cost down, all of a sudden you've got the opposite of that. You don't have the cost problem, but you've got accessibility to better stuff for more people, which gives more drivers an opportunity to win, which gives more fans a reason to come to the racetrack. So it depends a lot on how, not just Toyota, but any manufacturer chooses to play it. Believe me, sprint car racers, like every other kind of racer, will find a way to make it too expensive. And by racers, I mean everybody from the owners, crew chiefs, mechanics, right on down through. It's just the nature of racers to spend more money than they have, and I don't think that's ever going to change.
Can I ask you a journalism question real quick?
Sure.
There's been several times that Dirk and I have been approached with an issue that is plaguing the sport that we love, and we've got an option. We can address it and give it daylight, which may hurt the sport, or we can leave it alone, which may hurt the sport. When you're addressed with an issue like that, you see something's going on with the teams or the sanctioning bodies. What do you do?
Tough question. I would err on the side of addressing it, if it were left up to me. Typically, it's not left up to guys like me. We oftentimes get marching orders. I've always tried to push that envelope as far as I could push it. And to be blunt, NASCAR's the best example. I've had a fair bit of pressure over the years from NASCAR, various people within NASCAR, to sort of shut up and get in line and report the good stuff, because that's all there is. But the reality is, occasionally there's bad stuff. And I think it's a measure of a sport's maturity when you can accept that and accept the publicity that comes with it, the negative publicity, and deal with it and move forward. If you behave like the NFL, I don't think they've covered themselves with glory through some of their more recent scandals. I don't follow it closely, but they could have used a little NASCAR. They could have used a little damage control and a little more, But the direct answer to your question is, I think you err on the side of being open and public and transparent, and you do so with the confidence that the sport's been around a long time, and it's going to take more than this or that issue to kill it or to damage it. Conversely, I think you do yourself harm as a journalist if you are perceived as a cheerleader. And to be very frank, the majority of people covering NASCAR racing, as the example, most important motorsport in America, are cheerleaders. And I think the sport suffers for that.
Can't agree enough. We've taken 22 minutes of your time. It's been radio gold. We do appreciate it. Dave Despain.
You promised only 10, so you got like 12 minutes of free overtime.
We have a bad habit of doing that.
Well, you make it so much fun, we don't want to stop, right? I appreciate it, guys.
And we really do appreciate Dave taking the time out of his weekend at Knoxville and his prep. He was prepping for the show to come on MavTV, and he took some time out of his day to talk to us a little bit. If you missed any part of that interview, we'll post it up on the YouTube page here in probably about an hour, maybe a little hour and a half, and get that up for you so you can find out everything that Dave said. We got to take a break. We'll come back. Turn number 3. That'll be Stan Cisar talking about the RaceSaver IMCA Sprint Car Nationals at Eagle Raceway coming up this weekend. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Hey, race fans. The RaceSaver IMCA Sprint Car Nationals return to America's home track, Eagle Raceway, September 2nd through the 4th. Come watch over 125 sprint cars from all over the great United States and Canada. Qualifying features Friday and Saturday nights, as well as the Jake Ida Memorial Race of Champions. Sunday's action will include last chance qualifiers, and the fastest 27 cars will start 3 abreast in the 50-lap feature to crown our champion. Save some cash. Pick up a 3-day pass for only $30. Green flag times and more details are at eagleraceway.com.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 3, and it's time to be joined by the man who's been on the show. Well, once again, this time of year, it's Stan Cisar's a regular as a part of the front stretch. Today, it's time to talk about the RaceSaver IMCA Nationals. It's finally here. We've been talking about it all year. In fact, we've been talking about it since pretty much the 3rd annual ended last year. And we thought, is this going to be the year? Is the 4th annual year we're going to finally get over that 100 car count? Is it going to happen?
All the indications point that it is. Right now, we're kind of hovering around 135 entries. We've had some guys drop off that had already pre-entered, but we are still getting entries as daily, just about. So, some guys might have an engine problem. They might have crashed a car. For some reason, money might be tight. They might not be able to make the trip. But for every car that's dropped off, there's been a car that's entered late to take its spot. And basically, we've still got a few more days to get the pre-registrations in. So
how does this whole ordeal work out? Is it Wednesday is when the pre-tech is, or is that Thursday?
Actually, Wednesday, it's going to be kind of a little teaser tech, and only to alleviate some of the long lines that we get on Thursday. Some of the local guys or any of the travelers that are in town, they are going to have a tech session on Wednesday night, but tech will start first thing Thursday morning, and it will culminate until the last car goes through tech, and every car must go through tech inspection before they even turn a wheel on the track. Then, of course, we have the practice session on Thursday night.
And that's free to the public. That's opened up. Grandstands are opened up. You can come out Thursday night. And then the real racing starts on Friday, and that's when we start qualifying for the inside, middle. And no, we're not going to do that this year. We're doing the first nine.
The first 3 rows will qualify on Friday night. That'll be the first 9 finishers in our A-main qualifying main.
And so how do I determine if I'm able to race that A-main on Friday? Is it going to be practice times on Thursday, or is there going to be qualifying races?
There's going to be qualifying heat races, and that'll be done by draw. They're saying there's going to be 8 to 10 cars in a heat race, and then the amount of laps will either be 10 to 12 laps. Basically, I think they wanted to try to keep it right at 8 cars, so in order to get up into the A feature, because all indications say you're going to have to win your heat race to make that A qualifying feature on each qualifying night. And even if you do draw a back row number, the fact that you're still going to have a legitimate chance to make it from the rear of the field up to the front of the field in 10 or 12 laps, whatever that may be.
Again, Thursday is free. Friday is $10 to get in. That's going to set your A feature results from that night is going to set your first 9 cars. Everybody who doesn't race on Friday will come back on Saturday and qualify for positions 10 through 18.
Right. Anybody that doesn't make the top 9 can come back and re-qualify on the second night. And then after the first 2 nights, you'll be combined points will seed you in your qualifying features for on Sunday. And I'm thinking we're probably going to be up into an H or an I feature.
Wow.
And the top 9 cars in the B main event will be added to positions 19 through 27.
Do drivers tend to like to race that Friday night race because the track it's unused at that time? Coming Saturday night or come your last chance qualifiers on Sunday, the track's going to probably be kind of used up, so it's going to be a little bit tougher of a track?
I really don't think so. And,
no?
and as a matter of fact, I think the racing is actually better when the track dries out a little bit. We've had some of our most competitive racing going into last Saturday night. The track's been black from top to bottom. There's been a good, Roger farms the track during intermission every week. There's a good top side, a good bottom side, and some people even getting a hold of the middle. Usually the competition is off the charts. We've had, in our last 4 weeks of weekly racing, we've had over 35 cars last Saturday night. I mean, for a weekly show, that's just about unheard of for sprint cars.
Friday night, we've talked about 9 positions, 1 through 9, $10 to get into the gate.
On Friday night, we also have the Midwest Lightning Sprints, which are basically it's a pretty new class, and basically what it is, it's a full-sized midget.
Okay.
Full-sized midget car, except they do have wings, unlike most midgets are non-wing.
Good.
And less than the midget engines in the cars, they use a 1200cc motorcycle. Engine in those cars, which basically in some cases will make the same power as some of these really high dollar midget engines do. And with the wing on the car, they're going to be pretty fast little cars, and the entries have been kind of slow coming in. It's something the guys down at Eagle Motorsports, they actually build those cars, and those cars race. It's the same. It's similar to RaceSaver. It's a startup deal. It's made to be a little bit more affordable midget type racing, and it's taken off. And I think we're going to, by the time Friday night rolls around, I think we're going to have a pretty good field of cars. And this is going to be what they're saying is the first annual.
We're talking with Stan Cisar, the voice of the Speedway for the RaceSaver IMCA Sprint Car Nationals. Coming up this weekend to Eagle Raceway. You can pick up your tickets in advance, eagleraceway.com, or get them at the gate. And do yourself a little bit of favor. We've been talking about Friday night, $10, Saturday night, $12. Championship Sunday is going to be $15, so it's $37 if you buy them at the gate. Those are for regular adult tickets, but you can get them in advance for $30 and save yourself a couple of dollars. And we were talking about take that $7 you save, go buy yourself a steak sandwich.
Oh yeah, at least, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's the caliber of competition and the racing that the fans are going to be able to see for a $30 3-night ticket. That's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
And everybody that has been to one always comes back, and the crowd is growing yearly, and the people from out of town that come and follow their favorite drivers that are coming in. We've got cars coming from 16 states and Canada for this deal. Nebraska 37 entries, and Jack Dover wasn't entered yet. He was supposed to be entering this week, and he's a former champion of the event, so you know he's going to be one to get in.
It's a little early for Jack to register. He's a fashionably late kind of a guy.
Jack's you know, he usually just shows up, and where he's at is where he's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, he's quite a guy, and he's got so many choices of where he can go. He probably don't make the decision till the last minute. But right. I'm about 99% sure he's going to be behind the wheel of Chris Roseland's car. He has raced that car 2 or 3 times. He was down there last week and started back in the 12 hole in the starting position, and didn't dominate like he has in the past because it was a pretty fast track and everybody was fast. And he got it up to 5th made the pass for 5th on the last lap. But he does have 3 or 4 wins in the RaceSaver car this year out of about 6 starts. So he'll be very competitive.
We've covered Friday, we've covered Saturday, we even covered Thursday and a little bit of Wednesday. Let's talk about Championship Sunday. What's going to be in store for fans when they show up Sunday for the races?
Well, there's going to be basically, as I said, the cars are going to be seeded by points earned during the 2 nights of qualifying, and they'll be starting with however many cars are still left or that choose to participate. And the kicker is, you know, even the non-qualified cars on Friday night, it's $100. On Saturday night, it's $100. And on Sunday, if you take a green flag in one of the qualifying features, it's $250.
Yeah.
So even the non-qualifiers are going to take home $450. And it's going to pay $1,250 just to start the A main, $2,500 going to the winner. But everybody goes, geez, well, that's not very much. But $2,400 for second, $2,300 for third, $2,250 for fourth, $22 for fifth, and on by going down $50 a spot. That's almost unheard of.
Yeah. It's still a big purse, but it's spread out pretty evenly.
They could have made it $10,000 to win and $1,250 to start.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys in the middle wouldn't have got a whole lot of money. But the way it is, all the drivers love it, but it's still very competitive. It's more about the bragging rights, I think, than anything else.
And then Sunday we're also going to have obviously it'll be the 3 wide start, which is kind of one of the big things that everyone talks about, and it'll be the big thing talked about in the pits on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of getting your starting position right. Because is there a lane that is a little bit less favorable because you've really got to keep your line? Would it be that middle groove?
I think
middle lane?
I think the middle lane is probably going to be the toughest lane. But, you know, like I like to say, you know, the first year we had this race, we started 2 wide. They didn't make it from the starter stand to the first turn. And they had 2 cars end over end and a bunch of cars involved in the accident. And one of the guys that really was maybe a probable winner had to come clear from the back of the field in that one, you know. So it was kind of a tough deal, and he raced his way all the way up before the thing was over and almost ran down Kyle McCutcheon. So, and I'm talking about Jason Martin.
I was going to bring him up. Is this going to finally be the year that he can get his luck straightened out and get the win? Because he's had a strong car the last 2 years and probably could have been champion 2 years in a row, but he's had issues with flat tires, getting in traffic, and that kind of stuff.
He's leading. There was a caution flag. He's leading the field down after a restart, and he runs over some debris from the guy that hit the fence that caused the caution flag and flattens a tire. You know, last year he was embroiled in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th place battle. Those guys went at it. Jason Danley and Chad Wilson from Texas, who was the national champion last year in the RaceSaver division for IMCA. Those guys put on one whale of a race, and Jack Dover almost ran him down at the end. He started deep in the field last year, and once he got to 6th, he made up a lot of track position. But this could be Jason's year, but I'll tell you what, our guys are pretty tough. The guys from Texas are really tough, but the guys that are coming in, there's a bigger contingent of Pennsylvania cars. Everybody talks about the Pennsylvania posse in sprint car racing back on the right coast, and their champion from last year, who was, I believe, in the top 10 in the nation in national points. He's been looking forward to it ever since the PRI show. I talked to him last fall, in Indianapolis, and Blake Robertson, of course, and probably half a dozen guys coming from the left coast out in California. This division and this series is growing all around the country, and the indications are this thing is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
I think we've even forgot to talk about on Saturday night the Jake Ida Memorial Race of Champions. That's coming up on its third or fourth year.
This will be the second year for the Jake Ida race. It's the third year of the race, the second year that it memorializes Jake Ida. And just to qualify for that race, you have had to been a track champion, a series champion, a former national champion. The RaceSaver deal, it goes back farther than just the IMCA RaceSaver Nationals that we've held. There were probably half a dozen races down in Virginia and Carolinas, when French Grimes first put this whole concept together. There's already 30 cars entered in that, and these guys are all champions. Yeah. It gives you some kind of idea of the level of competition you're going to be going through.
There is a rain-out policy, which I think, unfortunately, you guys have had to implement it the last 2 years. It looks good so far, but you never know what Mother Nature's going to do. It's good for fans to know that if the rain does come on Championship Sunday, there's a policy in place that they can come back on Monday and catch the action, and which you guys have had to do for the last 2 years.
We had to do that last year and come back on Monday and start at 2 p.m. to try to get the guys that are traveling on the road. But if Friday is rained out, it will resume Saturday and we'll start about 2 o'clock. Then Saturday night show will follow that. If Saturday's show should rain out, it will start Sunday about 2 o'clock, and then the Sunday night championship features will start after that. If that particular race is rained out, or any of the above, everything carries over into Monday. So last year, I would have never bet you we were going to get the race in. I mean, we had a deluge that came down. The pictures,
it poured on Sunday.
Pictures made the national magazines, and they showed the sprint cars up in the pit area, and the water was up higher than the headers and up to the center of the hubs on the rear wheels. And lakes 3 and 4, we called it Lake Eagle down there. It was up, it did look like a lake down there. And at 8 o'clock Saturday morning, all the sump pumps and drainage worked, and Roger and the guys got out there with all the equipment and worked on the track. And at 2 o'clock, we were starting our, G main event, and the rest is history.
That's pretty amazing stuff. So get your tickets in advance, EagleRaceway.com. Again, you can get them for $30, the package deal. Buy Friday, Saturday, Sunday tickets for $30 in advance.
Well, I'll tell you what, and don't miss it, because if you miss it, you're going to be hearing about it until next year.
You will, absolutely. We'll be talking about this for the rest of the year. I know I'm going to set my recording equipment with you, and hopefully we can grab some audio of that championship, maybe even refresh our weekly promo that we run with you calling that race. But
cool.
It's always a great deal, and the thing I love the most about Eagle Raceway, it really has a lot to speak about the professional staff and the way that Roger and the safety crew and the track prep crew all work together. But it's designed to be able to fit today's modern now society, to where you could the previous race rolls off turn 1 and the new race rolls off turn 2, and you guys take a lap to get the field set and it's going again. I mean, there's literally a minute to minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes between races, and it's just quick sprint car action all day, all weekend long. Make sure you get out there Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the RaceSaver IMCA Sprint Nationals.
Great. Look forward to having a great event.
All right, Stan, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll be back in turn number 4 to wrap it all up. This is the front stretch.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
And we're back with Kansas Speedway who is still sorry.
That's right. I'm, really sorry to the coworkers of my fans who have to listen to all that loud talking on Monday. And sorry my drink prices won't turn your weekend into a loan application. And sorry the chase for the championship is more exciting than your last date.
The chase is on as the Sprint Cup Series Championship rolls in Sunday, October 16th for the Hollywood Casino 400 at Kansas Speedway. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com.
You're welcome.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 4. We did it again. We went long in turns 2 and 3, which, that's good interviews.
Hey, talking to Dave, we could have done an hour.
Yeah, and Stan's always good information for that. Make sure you get your tickets for Eagle Raceway coming up this weekend, the big finale weekend for the RaceSavers as far as competition goes for the Nationals. Boone starts next week on Monday, all the tech inspection and all that stuff, and then they're back at Eagle Raceway on Friday and Saturday of the following weekend is the Nebraska Cup. So a lot to go around. All right, today's the Michigan race. It was announced that Dale Earnhardt Jr. will not be back in the car, and Jeff Gordon has a prior obligation, so he's not able to get in the car. So it's going to be Alex Bowman in the car for this weekend. This is where the Pick'ems contest is getting a little confusing. If you took Gordon last weekend at Bristol, you can take Bowman this weekend at Michigan, and then next weekend when Gordon is back in the car for is that Richmond next weekend?
No, Darlington's next week, then Richmond.
Yeah, that's right, Darlington. Gordon's back in the car, so just keep it this way: you can't pick the same driver within 5 races.
Car number doesn't make any difference.
Right, absolutely. All right. That's going to do it for us today. Real quickly, while we got a little bit of time left in the show, which we don't have much time left, let's talk a little bit about Michigan. This is incredibly fast speeds.
Well, big speeds, and a lot of that's because they put that little tiny spoiler on, so there's no drag. As we saw the first race, turns 1 and 2 were just absolutely nuts with this package on there, because if you went in just a little hot and you tried to go anywhere towards the bottom, you just started creeping up the top and you'd have to lift and you'd lose all your momentum coming out of 2, which carried all the way down the back straightaway. And I mean, it was at Michigan the first time is where Earnhardt got bounced off the wall, and that's where all these concussion symptoms that he's really showing now are coming back from. And I don't know if anybody saw the special before Bristol, but they were showing some of his workouts and some of the balance work and the hand-eye coordination stuff that he's going through with this concussion protocol. It was pretty interesting.
Joey Logano got the win last time at Michigan. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, top 5. Carl Edwards, Tony Stewart, Austin Dillon, Jamie McMurray, and Kurt Busch, top 10. Kyle Busch started 9th, blew an engine on lap 52. He was the worst of everybody. Dale Earnhardt Jr., we noted his accident. Also, A.J. Allmendinger. Those were your 40th, 39th, and 38th place finishers. Denny Hamlin had his tough day at 33rd. Let's see. So maybe some of those drivers kind of give you a hint of what you should be picking. Joey Logano started on the pole, led 138 laps, got the win. Very dominant car. Maybe that's the car you pick for today as far as the Pick'ems contest is concerned.
If you haven't used them in the last 4 weeks.
Right. We'll be back next weekend live to cover the Eagle Raceway, RaceSaver IMCA Sprint Car Nationals, and we will do it all again next weekend live. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Make sure your picks are in on time. Coverage today for Michigan. NBCSN and MRN kicks off at 12:30. Green flag at about 1. Thanks, everybody.
Spread the work for that Crewman of the Week contest, because the Darlington race on Labor Day weekend is when that's going to fire up.
For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. This has been The Front Stretch. We'll see you at the racetrack.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Hey race fans, the RaceSaver IMCA Sprint Car Nationals return to America's home track, Eagle Raceway, September 2nd through the 4th. Come watch over 125 sprint cars from all over the great United States and Canada. Qualifying features Friday and Saturday nights as well as the Jake Ida Memorial Race of Champions. Sunday's action will include last chance qualifiers, and the fastest 27 cars will start 3 abreast in the 50-lap feature to crown our champion. Save some cash. Pick up a 3-day pass for only $30. Green flag times and more details are at eagleraceway.com.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.